what's up? What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday. Yes. I figure I was with the Cowboy Preacher. I figure I would, you know, try to match his coolness. That's going to be hard to do. Anyway, that was a new little intro I made this week. Thought it was cool. Happy Thursday, Beyond the Rant with Cowboy Preacher. We're going to be talking about worry, anxiety, all that stuff. Sponsors tonight, Powercore Rods. That's www.powercorerods.com. Code is BoatRamp10, all caps. Get you 10% off the core series. Kraken Jigz, KrakenJigz.com. BoatRamp10, all caps. Also gets you 10% off Boat Ramp 10. Yeah, Boat Ramp 10. It gets you 10% off the whole site. And GFB Fishing, that is www.girlsfishbetter.com. And that's GFB Fishing, all caps 20. Gets you 20% off the Obsession Series rods and the combos. And a quick shout out, again, as always, Okeechobee Rustic Company. That's Okeechobee, OKEECHOBEE, rusticcompany.com. That ain't no code. I just like supporting this small business. This is the Go Bug Somebody Else bug spray, mosquito spray in Florida. You need it. It works. No bites. And it's not oily. That's what I like about it. And right now, season's coming up. Halloween or the fall, all that good stuff, pumpkin spice. Y'all know they got the lattes and all that going on. Anyway, she's got pumpkin spice, jack-o'-lantern candles, soy wax, and the big one. Anyway, those are the little ones are on sale right now. I think $10.99. Us guys like to smell good every now and then, at least in the shop. Kind of like a locker room in here sometimes. But anyway, let's get going. Let's bring in the man, the myth. Let me unmute him. I don't know why. There we go. Let's bring him in, Cowboy Preacher. Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? Wait, hold on. You can't outdo me like that.
Yeah,
what is up?
Oh my, that's what
What's
I am.
up?
Well, I watch you and Dan the Man always wearing your hats and your shades, and you and Robert, all of them think you can outcool me. You can't outcool me.
Hey, get on that mic a little more.
Okay, I'm saying you and Robert, all of them think y'all can outcool me. You ain't gonna outcool your daddy.
Shoot, what you talking about, man? The country pimp? No. Well, hey, good to see you. Yeah, and I guess let's get right into it because
yeah, man.
Everybody's got worry. Everybody's got anxiety, worry, fear is all like one big thing. And the worry part is the stuff you mull over with the fear and anxiety, which can be good, can be positive. So now for me to take off my shades, I got to put on no pop of color tonight. We're going straight black with my Dollar Tree specials. Yeah, here we go. All right.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Intelligent now.
Yeah, I look like I know what I'm fixing to talk about. But so anyway, I'm gonna read the definition first of worry.
Okay.
And then I got a little psychology today, and the 6 things they say, how to do it, and then I got a little something, and then we can get into what God says about worry and talk about some experiences and all that. So, um, worry by definition is a verb to torment oneself with or suffer from disturbing thoughts. Fret. Um, um, a verb used with object to torment with cares, anxieties, um, worried condition, or feeling uneasy or anxiety. So it all, I mean, worry leads to anxiety. If that's what they're trying to say, would you say that's
Oh yeah,
pretty much
yeah.
correct?
We become anxious. I mean,
Yeah,
really
yeah,
anxious to our detriment. That
yeah,
I don't know that it begins to control us when we get anxious. We have a lot of anxiety. Then we get to fear, all of that stuff,
yeah,
and
yeah,
of course, it affects us physically.
yeah, yeah. Um, so just a little something that I saw on this big old massive thing that that I printed off. It says worry isn't a pleasant feeling or state of mind, yet we go there repeatedly. That's a pretty cool little statement.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, the hardest part of worrying about uncertain situations is the point where you spiral in stressful times. When we most need restorative rest, we can find ourselves lying awake in the small hours, worrying over things we can't control. Now that's and I'll get into some things that I had to teach myself. And again, we can always go back to like one of the first episodes when we talked about having a sound mind and whether you know whether you think about it or not that everything you deal with in life is mind controlled to me. But anyway, your mind runs away with the worst case scenarios and you feel worse and worse. I mean, how many of us have done that? And I did that early on in life. I mean, every now and then I'll slip up, but I've done the whole sit there and worry till you get sick. I mean, worry, anxiety, all that. It's not only a mental thing; it's a physical thing
Oh
too.
yeah, it leads to the
Uh,
physical.
I never had anxiety on a construction site ever. Um, well, in my in my superintendent stage, I guess. Um, because one, I taught my mind to shut things off and leave it at work. I know you used to counsel a lot of marriage counseling, and I seen the workaholic bringing stuff home, all this and that, and I just told myself years ago that, or taught myself, when that 5 o'clock comes and you get in that truck to leave, I taught myself to cut everything off. Where I go from work and something might have happened at work to absolutely at five, when I back that truck up, I could switch it over and start thinking about things I need to do at the house and music. Music helped me get through a lot of stuff where I wouldn't have to think about much. Um, but anyway, that's things I taught myself to not worry. Um, one of the other things was if you had a bad week and was worrying for 4 days on Thursday afternoons at this one particular job, we all bought over and under shotguns, and we go every probably every 2 weeks. We went every week, but every 2 weeks we buy a case of 12 gauge shells and we go to a sport and clay range. And soon as you pulled that trigger, you forgot about everything that went on that week, and the worry went away. Um, and I'm probably jumping ahead as far as how to deal with some of that stuff. Um, Go ahead.
Well, I look at worry, uh, and of course, as a minister, and and sin is sin. I mean, worry is a sin. It's just simply showing a lack of faith in what God's going to do. Now, I'm talking about from a Christian perspective. Okay,
Yes. Yes.
so with that in mind, and worry, what you were saying, worry is an emotion. Okay,
Yes.
it can't. This thing about just turn it off. It can't be turned off. But what you said uh, about the shooting, and we'll go into several other examples of it, is if you start worrying, you can't just turn it off. You have to replace it with
Yes.
something else.
Yes. Yes.
Now,
Exactly.
working people out here working like you on the job and construction and everything, because your mind is geared for one thing. You know,
Production.
okay, right, and you don't have time to allow other things. It's when you sit and you begin to think of things. I'd say when you start thinking about tomorrow, today,
Yes. Well,
okay,
yeah.
or 5 o'clock, and you're at 10 o'clock in the morning. You got a goal to hit, and you already starting to think about 5 o'clock, and it ain't even 10:30 yet. You're
Yeah.
starting to
Yeah.
worry. Am I going to get all this done by 5 o'clock? Now,
Well, I'm gonna go back. This is so. I read where situation that you can control what you can control, and working with Uncle Gary, it is buttholes and elbows all the time. I mean, you go, 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 go,
right.
and when I moved to Alabama, I had to be told to slow down and all that. Well, then I get into assist. I left that guy. That was residential, and then I went into commercial, where it is fast paced, deadlines, anxiety. I'm
High pressure.
uh,
High
high
pressure.
pressure. So when I move down here, I'm working for a company, and when things, I work with big companies, and I go to working with a smaller company, but smaller buildings. I mean, I'm working on $30 million projects where I came from, and then you go down to a $5 million project, which doesn't take a whole lot to run because you use the same anyway. Well, you set a schedule and you push those people the right way into meeting that schedule. Well, when things wouldn't go right, or I wasn't given, um, anyway, I would lose my crap, just to put it nicely. I would lose it. And finally, one of the guys had to come out, one of the bosses, and talk to me and say, look, you can control what you can control, and that's it. You can't worry about what you can't control. And if you do, you're going to burn out. And that took a lot for me to figure that out. And once I did, um, it was like, no worries. I can't have this. Okay, no worries. And that's what I made myself do without losing my crap. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, yeah. Uh, I've only had anxiety one time in construction, and I don't know. It was when I moved back up to Alabama from Florida, and thought because y'all were up there, Taylor was in school at Alabama up there. I thought y'all were getting elderly, and I thought, well, maybe I need to be up there because something might happen. I might need to take care of you. Anyway, so I decided to move back and took a job with the company, and I didn't realize that I had anxiety until I started losing weight and worrying all the time. When I'd wake up, my stomach could be churning, and because I was worried about the boss that wasn't supposed to be there, he was kind of getting out, but I already got in trouble for something that nobody ever told me anything about. I did not have the knowledge of how they did things. So I did something wrong and got just reamed out. I never, I mean, I've gotten reamed out before, but I knew, I didn't know. Anyway, so every day I would go there worried about what he was going to say, if he was going to show up, all that. And I got anxiety. And I knew that even before I got laid off, I knew that I had to leave. And I knew I had to change my situation because it wasn't going to get better.
Right.
So, that was,
But now I look, and that's the first time I was ever really concerned about it because I knew you were leaving and it wasn't you. Okay.
mm,
You were tight and twisted, but there was one
yeah,
day the Lord gave you relief and you might have had anxiety the rest of the day, but
yeah,
you were a changed man for about 15 or 20 minutes.
yeah,
You
yeah.
don't remember that? I
No,
remind you when you walked out the door, and folks, I want to tell you this is the absolute truth. So Warren walks out the door
yeah, I could have been on
across
the
the
news.
carport,
Yeah.
and he looks, and 20 feet from him is a black bear in our yard. 20 feet from him.
I mean, I
That was
ran round the corner at 5:30 in the morning, pitch black, and luckily there was a street lamp right there, or I'd have walked right past him. Ain't no telling what he would have done. Yeah, I woke up real quick, and I could have been on the news because that bear was on the news later on harassing other neighborhoods. But
yeah, I think he went
yeah,
on down that way. So anyway, getting back to that, let me tell you something. I was sitting there thinking, my daddy, bad as he was and everything. Uh, and this ought to be a lesson to all of us. You can have the most terrible person in the world, they can still give you some good advice, okay, because they've learned things. But my daddy, and I lived by this for many, many years, was he always used to say, when I said, well, Daddy, if, and he said, if a frog had wings, he wouldn't bump his behind every time he hopped. But he doesn't. So he doesn't have wings. And oftentimes, Warren, we can start with an if and get so worked up and full of anxiety and even to the point of anger. Say we're thinking about, let's say the day before we had kind of a disagreement with someone and maybe our temperament wasn't just right and everything and it wasn't resolved the day before. And so now you start thinking because you got time to think and you start thinking, well, I'll tell you what, tomorrow, if they start this stuff tomorrow, if the first
yeah,
thing they do, if that all this we start, and then we get worked up, tense, stressed out, and we are now at the point our whole body is tense because we're fixing to meet that situation head on, and
yep,
we're like a rubber band being twisted, and we meet the individual and they don't even mention it.
yeah,
Now we got to release all that tension. We don't know, you know, how to do
yeah,
that.
yeah. So you talk about releasing or expression or express your worries. So psychology today, before I read the one thing, and then we'll get into uh, what the Bible said. But anyway, so number one, there's 6 ways to um, combat um, combat your is that way to 6 ways to deal with your worry according to Psychology Today. Um, Identify unproductive worry. Unproductive. So productive worries lead to action that gives us more control of our environment, whereas unproductive worry makes us feel more anxious, uncertain, can be a vicious cycle. Try to differentiate. I can't even.
Differentiate.
Yes, how much of your worry is productive, making sure there's enough food in the house, versus unproductive, staying up all night thinking about worst case scenarios. Um, if there's nothing you can do about it, it's not yours to worry about. Again, control what you can control.
Right.
Um, the number 2 is express your worry. Find a way to express it instead of letting worries go round and round in your head. Try keeping a worry journal. I don't know if that would be good. This is from Psychology Today.
Yeah.
A worry journal. Set aside a defined period, perhaps 15 minutes, when you will give yourself full permission to worry. What the kind of crap? Write all your fears and worries down in a notebook. Once the time is up or you've run out of worries to record, put the notebook away and let it go. Your worry journal can act as a parking space for unproductive worries so that they don't keep circling around your mind, looking for a space to park. Many people find that by writing it all down, they can interpret the constant cycle of thoughts and move on, free to think about and do other. I'm sorry. There is no way I'm a. How you gonna write your worries down? I just don't get that.
All right. Let me
It's
object.
written down.
Yeah, let me object just a minute. All right,
Okay.
so let's just say somebody you've offended somebody, they offended you or whatever. Okay,
Mm,
you're apart. You need to get it resolved. You go to the pastor.
hmm.
Pastor says you need to pray about it and ask him forgiveness and things like that. So
Yeah.
you decide I'm going to write them a letter.
Yeah.
So you start and you really do. You say, look, I'm a brother in Christ, and I ought not to be acting this way. I know Jesus would not do this. And you begin to write, and it really starts off good.
Yeah.
But then that old flesh kicks in, and you get to thinking about what they did.
Yeah.
And now the next thing you do is start justifying why you got upset. And by
Yeah.
the time you're through with that letter, all of that garbage starts coming and pouring back on you. And now you're mad and you expect them to apologize to you and ask you to
Yeah.
forgive them because you didn't do it. They
Yeah.
started it all. I've watched letters after letters like that. The people get anxious. All of this stuff builds up the stress and everything
I don't.
simply
Yeah.
because they did that.
I just don't get. You're gonna sit there for 15 minutes and ponder everything you're worried about. I don't get that. I don't want to worry about what's causing me stress.
So
So
what does that do to you? All it does, what you stopped worrying about, now you are recalling, which
yes,
causes you
yes,
to worry about it.
yes, yes, yeah. That one. Yeah, that one's a new one on me. I've never heard. Hey, write down your worry. I can see you writing down a journal of your day and how you
Right,
know stuff
right.
like that. Why would you put down worry and then you go back and read it and start worrying about that same thing again?
I
You
don't.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't grasp that because recall when you start recalling negative, that's what you're going to end up being thinking about is the negativity.
Well, the next one's even better. Number 3 is practice mindfulness.
All
Try
righty.
to bring moments of mindfulness into your day by sitting in active and intentional awareness.
Uh
What
huh.
kind of You can exercise mindfulness when you sit at a kitchen table eating your lunch. Feel the chair under your body. Appreciate the texture of the food as you chew it. Note the sensation of going from hungry to satisfied. Mindfulness is not easy, but it's incredibly powerful. To hone the skill, you can practice mindfulness more
Wow.
formally through mindfulness meditation, which trains you to better manage racing thoughts and stay grounded and present when troubling uncertainty about. Look, if I'm thinking about my chair underneath me, I'm thinking that thing's struggling because I'm a big boy. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm worrying about, hey, are these wheels going to pop off while I'm sitting here?
Or
You know
how
what I'm
long they
saying?
get for lunch? How long they get for lunch
I,
if
I don't
they're
know.
do you savor? I mean, sit there, Warren. Not only if you have a 30-minute lunch hour, just think you can savor the taste of your food and be mindful of the surface of your seat. And this
Man,
helps deal with the worry and anxiety.
yeah. And before you do that, you're going to worry for 15 minutes because you're writing down your fears and worry in a journal. What kind of monkey?
Yeah.
Okay. Develop habits and routines for sense of control. Now this might be good.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's see what they say about it. Because I have habits and routines. All right. Most uncertainty comes from the lack of an end date to all physical distancing, health threats, second or subsequent waves, and further lockdowns. Oh, what? Man, I should have seen what date this was. I guess they. Anyway, when worry threatens to overwhelm you, it helps to recommit to your structure and routine so you can feel a sense of control on a smaller, more individual scale. Choosing few helpful habits, building them into your routines, and sticking to them can help tame your worry more than you realize. Habits become automatic and give us a sense of predictability and control. Plus, when we complete a task, we feel a sense of accomplishment, and that boosts our mood. Habits and routines can help with any moment of uncertainty in life, well beyond that. This must have been. Oh no, it was in 24. Oh no, hold on. This must have been 20. Oh, this was 2021. I should have looked. My bad, people. My bad.
It's still that
But
modern,
well beyond this pandemic. Maybe you ended a relationship and feel aimless and confused about the future, or you moved across country for a job to a town where you don't know a soul. Not knowing how things will pan out is scary, but establishing some structure, building helpful habits in your routine, and setting small, attainable goals can help you keep going. Try setting up an activity calendar for your work, fun stuff, and sticking to it as much as possible, even when you don't feel like it and would rather crash on the couch. Now,
that's good. That's good. I
yeah,
agree with
yeah,
that.
that part right there. So when it says for work or fun stuff, so again that goes back to um, when I first got divorced. You know, I had some worry until I learned how to control things. I felt guilty or worried that if I go and do something fun, Taylor's not having fun. So that was always like a worry that I shouldn't be having fun because you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you told me you need to find a hobby. You need to find something to do, and at that time it was golf. And I just go to the driving range, whatever. Um, Found some other little hobbies to take my mind off of work and stuff like that. But the gun thing, that the sport and clay range, that was probably the best thing to relieve any worry, anxiety, stress, whatever. Um, anyway, I mean, the rods I do, you know, it. it it relieves some stress sometimes, you know, unless I have a bunch to do that um that I'm worried if I'm not going to get done. But that comes into the word procrastination.
Yeah.
A lot of times in our lives, when we procrastinate, that brings on unnecessary worry. You know what I mean? You procrastinate about getting something done at work, and then you're doing it at the last minute, worrying if you're going to get done or not. So it brings on worry, anxiety, everything else.
Which you caused it. You caused
Oh
it
yeah,
by procrastinating. Then you turn around now. Now
yeah,
let me tell you, when I surrendered to the preacher and went off to school, you have to understand. I mean, I didn't know anything. I'm a high school dropout. I dropped out of
yeah,
school when I was going into my senior year. Went into the service, and I had a battalion commander that insisted that everyone that didn't graduate from high school had to get their GED while I was in there, and I'm thankful for that.
yeah,
And I was just sober enough coming in from town to take the test, and I actually passed it. Now, it was low, but I actually got my GED, which got me into college. Okay.
right,
So, but for whatever reason, I'd never had that type of thing of taking notes and all this. And
right,
it's not like today. Back then, when that professor started speaking, I mean, I actually was one of the students that, in my ignorance, told, I says, he said, y'all need to take notes. And so right out in class, I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I'm country, okay? I
yeah,
don't know. I've never been in a college situation in my life. And I
yeah,
said, whoa, whoa, whoa. I said, Dr. Lee, I said, you're going to have to slow down. I can't write that fast.
yeah,
And now, of course, he grinned because he said, you just get it the best way you can. Well, subconsciously, I'm sure that caused a lot of worry and stress. And
right,
I got psoriasis in my scalp.
right, right,
Now, when I talk about psoriasis, I ain't talking about a little scab or anything. My head was so bad that when I scratched and got the scabs on it, hair would come out. It would come out in patches, clung to that thing. It was bad. And
yeah,
so I went to a dermatologist. And of course, he told me, he says it's caused by worry and stress. And I said to him, I went like this. Let me see if I can get my hand. I said, look at that, doc. I said, that thing's steady as a rock. He said, that doesn't mean anything. He said, when you hold it inside, when you worry, it's going to come out somewhere. He said, it might be good that you do shake, but we
yeah,
assume, and again, physically, we assume because on the outside of us, it doesn't look like we're stressed or worried, but the inside is tearing us up. And so I had to say, well, look, the Lord changed my life. He gave me a new life and everything. And sin is a worry. And I'm getting stressed about this. I need to stop this mess. And
yeah,
so I don't have psoriasis anymore.
yeah, yeah,
Simply because,
yeah,
and I can remember going to my primary doctor one time, checking my heart rate. And he said, doesn't anything ever upset you? Yeah, I get
yeah.
upset, but I cannot let that thing control me, you know?
Exactly, and that talking about I mean that again. That's a psychological thing.
Right.
You can teach yourself not to have to. It's a hard thing to learn, and I'm glad I learned it. I'm um, but I'm gonna read these last two, and
Okay.
then say one thing, and then you can get into the
Okay.
what the Bible says. So the fifth one is seek humor, which I like. That's a good way to get rid of worry.
Yeah.
Seek humor. Whether it's a TV show, funny tweets, or a group chat with friends, humor is very much about here and now. The more we're in that headspace, the less our minds travel to the future and remind us how uncertain it is. You know, um, have have a friend, an accountability friend that take your mind off stuff. You know, um, or just get on Facebook and read Bone Cutters
There
memes.
you
I
go.
mean,
There you go. Or
that,
Tommy
that
Smith.
yeah, yeah. And number 6, again, is one thing I've learned in the last 8 years is accept what you can control. Acknowledging that we can't control and change everything is real important. This is easier said than done, but acceptance is a big step towards regaining peace of mind. Wanting to know and control everything fuels uncertainty and obsessive consumption of information. Grasping for uncertainty can make things worse. Seek information that is vital and hold on, keep up with, not with the news. Don't keep up with the news.
No,
You'll sit there
that'll
and
give you worry and
have
anxiety.
anxiety. But constantly refresh your social media feeds only that it adds to your anxiety. Um, Uncertainty and anxiety are popping up everywhere. You can find what to. Da, da, da. All right, that's enough of that. I mean, we can cancel out 3 and 4. Those were ridiculous.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I was just gonna read this that I found from the Biblical Counseling Center, and it was just something I seen. So, just real quick, it says God created us as an emotional people. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Free will, emotional people.
Right.
Um, our emotions are given by God to put us into motion. Never heard that before. Sounds, for instance, anger is driven by a sense of injustice and a desire to oppose something that we feel isn't fair or right. In the same way, fear is God given emotion when our mind alerts us to danger, real or perceived. Anxiety is what we feel when our body is responding to the emotion of fear,
Right.
and worry is the thought process that mulls over and gives power to the object of our fear.
Yep.
That's pretty good. So it
I
says
like that.
fear, worry, and anxiety show up together and feed into each other in various situations where danger lurks. Even at times when we don't know why we feel anxious, our brains have previously learned to fear in a similar situation that we simply can't recall at that moment. Our anxiety is tied to our life experiences and thought patterns, not some random biological defect. So, what do you think about that? That's all I got.
Yeah. Okay. The Bible and Jesus said, so don't worry at all about having enough food and clothing. Why be like the heathen? For they take pride in all these things that are deeply concerned about them. But your heavenly Father already knows perfectly well that you need them. And he will give them to you if you give him first place in your life and live as he wants you to. So don't be anxious or worried about tomorrow. God will take care of your tomorrow too. Live
Yeah,
one day at a time. James, the book of James says, and I'm paraphrasing this, of course.
yeah,
James says, don't, it's all right to plan. Okay.
yeah,
You
yeah,
need to plan. You have to plan your rods. You have to plan your time that you're going to build your rods. And everyone has to plan. You start your day in planning and everything. But he said, don't say, okay, I'm going to go and move to such and such a city. And I'm going to stay there for a year and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. He just said, don't ever say what you're going to do. He
yes,
said, because you don't know what the day is going to bring forth. You don't know what's going to happen today.
yeah,
Now, when you get that in your mind and you start all that stuff, you start to uh, become anxious about it. About
yeah,
okay, the move is going to do. Uh, for instance, it's all right to move to that city. It's all right to plan. It's all right to think. But whenever you get to thinking about, well, again, the frog had wings, he wouldn't bump his butt. Well, what if it's delayed on there? What if I can't get? Okay, now you're starting. That the worry is starting to bring it to a point of anxious. Then
Right.
you start having a fear about, well, am I making the right decision or not? No, he
Yeah.
said you plan it, you trust in the Lord, and you follow through with it. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Timothy, First Timothy 1:7, I think, it says, it wasn't God who gave you the spirit of fear or anxiety.
Right.
I didn't give a spirit of fear, but of power and love, and the last is a sound.
Sound mind. Yeah.
So, as a Christian, and I know that believe in Satan, I believe that the flesh is a sinful nature of man. That's what it is. And so Satan influences the flesh. And so whenever we do have anxiety and fear, that's not coming from God. If
Yes.
he said that I didn't give you the spirit of fear, then it's not God bringing that fear and worry and anxiety coming into your life. That has to be an influence on you that you don't have control of,
Yeah. Yeah.
or you're not turning the control of it over to the Lord.
Right.
And you brought that out. But one of the things that many Christians are not aware of, and I want to go back to this again. Uh, Whenever you're influenced and you begin to have uh, fear or anxiety, uh, that means if God has not given you that, that means that you're being influenced by Satan and you are losing control of it.
Yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
turn it over to the Lord, how does it then become a sin? And that's what you were
Yeah.
telling me the other day. So tell me how it becomes a sin when you turn it over to the Lord.
Right. So, so one thing you brought up was,
No, I'm
you
talking
know,
about you
oh,
talked to me the other day and
oh
was
yeah,
telling me
well,
uh,
yeah, about,
turning
well, I
something
mean,
to the Lord and then worry about it.
right, and so like, for instance, something came up with Taylor's car, and it was, you hear that shock of 9 grand to fix it, and you're like, what am I going to do? And at first, there's with me, it's just a quick worry, kind of anxiety, your stomach knots up, and then you think, well, I don't control this. I'm gonna pray about it and say, Lord, just you know, show me how to deal with it. And some things happened where it became available, and I just turned it over. But I think you're talking about um uh
When you say you turn something over to the Lord like
yeah,
that, and then you worry about it.
yeah, because uh my I always say I don't control nothing. And that when I say that, it always makes me feel better. And you're right. If if I say, Lord, I I don't know what to do with this, but at the same time, he's gonna handle it, but you have to give an effort. You still have to put in a thought process and everything else, and he might put something there to block that and say, no, that ain't going to work. And then you have to come up with something else. But you can't sit there and worry about it. I just,
Well, what you told me was is basically that when you say that you're putting something in the hand of the Lord and then turn around and worry about it, that's a sin.
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
I,
it's
that's the
just
way
that
I,
simple. That's where it
that's the
becomes
way
a
I,
sin.
yeah, that's the way I see it is, I mean, why would you pray about it and then say, Lord, I'm giving it to you, and then sit there and worry and get sick to death worrying about it. I mean, you still have to put for some sort of effort to help the situation, but I don't see how you can get by with it not being a sin if you say, hey, I'm putting it in your hands. I mean,
right.
that's just the way I see it.
Okay, let's just say that somebody walks up to you and say, "Hey, Warren, man, I follow your podcast and I follow you on Powercore and everything else." Uh, and they just told you at your company that you got a big job coming up and everything else. But man, I need 100 rods done. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, and you know what you can and can't do and all of these things.
Right.
Uh, and you know what what you have to do, what you have to order, and everything else.
Right.
Well, uh, you put that in God's hands and say, all right, but it doesn't mean that you just sit and wait. Well, I'll wait till this deal at my business or my primary work with a
Right.
construction company, and old James he's wanting to go fishing the other day, but the
Yeah.
Lord's going to work this stuff out. Okay,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
you got to,
Mm-mm.
in other words, you got to sit there and say, all right, Lord, I only have so much time. I've given this man, I have this much time, and I don't know if I'm capable of doing it, but I'm making commitment. I need your help to do this. But
Yeah.
you have to put that effort forth.
Yes. Yes.
So
Absolutely.
which
Absolutely.
means that I'm sorry, as much as your friends want to have a birthday party and celebrate,
Yeah.
you can't go over there and have that birthday party.
Man, do you know how many times that goes through my head? And I have to sit there and just block it out because if I do, I'm gonna worry that I've missed out on tons of stuff.
Oh
I
yeah.
get I was telling somebody today, I get invited to fish at Horseshoe Beach every weekend. I have not been in 2 years since he started inviting me. Just because every time I have dedicated myself to the rod stuff, and I've missed out on things, and I've also done some things, but I've missed out on a lot because I wanted to try to build this up. Now, am I getting to a different stage in life? That would be a yes, because and it excuse me, it doesn't worry me, but I'm at a different stage in life that I've been having certain thoughts about what I want to do, and it's I'm just not going to worry about it.
Well,
Um,
we forget that we have a responsibility and
right?
we're accountable. And oftentimes we create the problems that causes us to worry about them. Let's
Yes.
just say a man's got a forest out here. He's got to cut that forest down. He's got to cut so many trees a day and everything, um, and get to the backside. Well, man, that's a lot of trees out there, man, and I only
Yeah.
have so many days. And it keeps on and worrying him. And no, what you do is you get your axe, you sharpen your axe, and you begin to cut the tree down, whether you feel like it or not. And
Yes.
you do it every single day. And at the end of it, all of a sudden the trees are down and there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, I'll give you an example. So I did work for UPS at one time, and I worked at the airport or near the airport, and I had to load the big tractor trailers, not the brown trucks, the big tractor trailers. Well, your first day, you go through training, but your first day, you are so overwhelmed with the packages that are coming down that conveyor belt, and they may holler at you and say, "Hey, go to bay so and so and start stacking those." Well, you get there and you got packages falling off the conveyor belt and stacked up, and you're going, "How am I going to do this?" And this black dude come in that had been there for a while, and he goes, "Hey, take one box at a time." One box at a time, and don't think about all them other boxes. Next thing you know, you'll have all those stacked, and then you'll go to the next one.
Well,
He said one box at a time. So anything in life that comes up that you are overwhelmed with something, you start with the thing you know you can do first and take it one step at a time, so it doesn't overwhelm you with worry and everything else.
Yeah. See, the thing about it is, you've got a job at UPS. You're supposed to load that trailer. All of
Yep.
a sudden, the curtain comes open, and this is a massive wall
Yeah.
of boxes.
Yep.
All right. Immediately, you have a sense of fear. Man, how
Yeah.
did they expect
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
And then you worry, well, how if they come down, if it's running too fast, am I gonna? And all of a sudden, this anxiety, and out of all of that, instead of trusting the Lord, all of a sudden somebody says, "Hey, one box at a time."
Yeah.
Just one
Yeah.
box at a time. And then all of a sudden you look up and there's no more boxes coming down the conveyor line.
That's right.
So
And that's yeah. I mean that's a great way to approach life.
absolutely.
Um, you know, you were talking about before when you were talking about planning and all this and that, and then it don't go your way. I worked with a guy that he was a assistant project manager. They were training to be a project manager, and he would have his whole day lined up, everything that he was going to do. If one thing messed up, that joker would be useless the rest of the day. He would have so
Wow.
much anxiety and everything, and he wasn't good at thinking on his feet to combat. Oh, that went wrong, but I can take care of this and get back to this. His mind didn't work that fast, and there's some people that don't. But if you take one box at a time, it eventually it'll get you back on track.
And so
You know?
you applied that principle. I remember uh, when I had my heart surgery, and your mama you had to take her back to the house to get a clean clothes and this and stuff to come back to the
Yeah.
hospital and everything. And your mother has shared this in testimony many, many times and shared with people that she was anxious. She was
Yep.
anxious because she didn't know where to start first. She had to get clothes. She had to do this
Right.
and all that, get back to the hospital, me and everything. And you told her, go to each room and take what you need out of this room alone and then go to the next room. That's going
Yeah.
back to one box at a time. You
One
go
box at a time.
and compartmentalize everything and you just do it one at a time. Whereas if you just absolutely just overwhelmed by something, you're going to have stress and worry and
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah.
Yet,
It'll. Yeah.
yet you can, but that stress and worry in your mind never tells you you can control it. Your
Yeah.
mind is working, say, man, you can't control this, all that. What you're saying is basically, I have control.
Yes. Yes. Because if you sit there and let that overwhelm you, you won't get nothing accomplished at
Absolutely
all.
not. No,
At all. It will physically shut you down. Um,
because it's overwhelming,
yes.
and then it
Yeah.
affects the worry, and then the anxiety kicks in, and of course physical. But it's overwhelming to you unless you stop.
Yeah.
Whenever you feel that anxiety coming on, you have to stop. Uh,
Yeah. And control what you can control. That's
absolutely.
the whole one box at a time. You can control that one box to put it here and then grab the next box and put it there and the next box and the next box. Because they expect you to stack like 100 boxes an hour. Well, when you're first starting out, you are like, what? And then the
Uh-huh.
next thing you know, you're doing over 100 boxes an hour and don't even realize it because you go in there and don't even think about it. You take the first box, stack it, second box, stack it, and you just make your mind one box at a time. And
Well,
that's with anything.
well, Proverbs says, and I love Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, besides James telling don't ever say what you're going to do. But here's what Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says: trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding.
Yep.
That is, see, when I say that, is that our understanding can be warped and twisted. What
Yeah.
God sees, what we see, even on like a construction site or anything, you know yourself. I was just thinking about this. You know yourself, just because you had an engineer and you have the blueprint sitting down in front of you,
Yep.
does not mean that if you build it to exactly that, that's going to work out. Because I know you've told me that engineers have messed up.
Oh yeah. Oh
So,
yeah.
and so when it doesn't happen, and you get, so he said, don't lean your own, there's all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. So
Yep.
that's why in Philippians he said, don't worry about anything. Instead of pray about everything, tell God your needs and don't forget to thank him for his answers. If you do this, you'll experience God's peace, which is far more wonderful than the human mind can understand. His peace will keep your thoughts and your hearts quiet and at rest as you trust in Jesus. And so that comes back to a sound mind. Um,
Oh yeah.
uh, if you absolutely establish yourself that I am capable of controlling this, and as a Christian, you believe that God helps you and you're turning it over for God, he'll give you that peace that passes understanding.
Yeah.
You just
and if even if you're not a Christian, it also helps to have a accountability person in your life that you can,
yeah.
say, hey man, I'm having trouble with this issue. What should I do? And I mean, the one box at a time is for everybody, Christian, non-Christian, whatever. You take it one box at a time. I mean,
One day at a time.
Yeah, I mean that could be a new T-shirt. One box at a time.
Well, it simply means one day at a time, because
Yeah.
James says you don't know what today's going to bring. You don't know what's going to happen today. You're
Yeah.
all upset and worried about tomorrow. He said, tomorrow will take care of itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You ain't even at tomorrow, and already you're concerned and worried about tomorrow. And
Yeah.
that's where all of this mess comes from. And of course, I want to say this. When I was when your mama was had COVID, and that was back when the 19 hit. She has
20,
to be,
yeah.
when she
In
had to be put,
21. Yeah.
yeah, had to be put in hospital, and that was when you could not visit anyone. Uh,
Yep.
and they, we could go into all of that stuff, but you couldn't visit anyone. And so many were dying because they'd been put on ventilators and everything else. Well, uh, she was at this little hospital here in our town, and they were transferring her up to Sebring above us to the larger hospital to take care of her. Uh, and they sent the ambulance down to pick her up and take her. And I stood outside under that port and was right there when they put your mama in that ambulance.
Yep.
And then I was looking at her when they closed that door. Now, that didn't really hit me so much until I got home.
Yeah.
And when I got home, I thought, and this, see, oftentimes the flesh will, that old nature will give you time to calm down and then poke you in the mind. And I thought that may have been the last time that I laid my eyes on my wife.
Yeah.
See, then all that thoughts come. So what I thought of with it is called faith rest, is when Israel came to the mountain and they were thirsty, they had no water, and they started complaining and all that.
Right.
And they were supposed to trust in the Lord that he would provide the water for them. But they were griping and complaining and rebelled and everything against him. And they should have just stopped and thought, well, he owns the mountains, he owns the water. No. So what that is everyone